Welcome, everyone, to Faith to Lead. It's awesome that you're here. I'm delighted to have you here again. And, I want to ask you this question. How do you respond to a discouraged employee? If there's someone on your team and they walk into the office and they look like they're down in the dumps, or they just look like they haven't been themselves, for your last several meetings or even in their work product, do you say anything? Should you say anything? When do you say anything? Is it appropriate to say anything? Well, we're going to look at that right now, and we're going to dive right into that. And I just want to say welcome. I'm glad that you're here. And to also encourage you that you can share this podcast, with a friend or anyone, even discuss it on your team. You can subscribe to it. We'd love that. So that way you can always stay up to date with some of the latest principles and things we're talking about here. Or you could also visit us at faith2lead.com. Drop in a thought, a note, anything that can share with us exactly what you're going through so we can make sure this is a vivacious, dynamic community to help you to win. One of the things or the reasons why we should even ask why we should encourage a discouraged employee is because of something that we've already learned, that we have to encourage the heart of the team or of the people who are on our team. I want to give you a quick story. For many years, I did not know how to do that. I didn't even know if I should do it. And this is going to sound funny. It's because I was afraid. There was so many things saying, and you have to be careful what you say to people in the workplace. You can't touch anyone. You can't say anything too nice. How will people look at you if you go and you talk to someone? And so I wanted to be the Iceman. Let me just handle business, tell you what we have to do and when. If a person was down, I didn't know what to say. If I should say anything, I didn't have the skill set so that I can show any kind of emotional intelligence and still observe the boundaries of being professional. I want to make sure that we engage that today, because one of the important factors to help your team win, your business win, your organization win, is if they have a high emotional bottom line where people realize it's good to be part of this team. I want to be part of this team because I know that people actually care about me here. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, let me share with you just a couple biblical texts that I think are appropriate. In the book of Ephesians, that's in the New Testament, Paul, the Apostle Paul, writing to the church of Ephesus, there's a passage in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 to 13. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. And it pretty much gives God's format for setting up his church. It says he created some apostles, some prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers for the equipping of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the unity of the body of Christ. And it pretty much gives a systematic formula for how the church, the corporate entity, should be built. Then there's another passage in the book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, right around verses 1 to 12, that I think everyone should look at and read, because right there, Paul was encouraging one of his disciples, a man by the name of Timothy, who was being appointed into leadership when Timothy was going through a really, really difficult time. Why is this important? Because right now, one of the hallmark statistics that we're seeing in the Delaware Valley is that 60%, actually 62% at the time of this recording, is 62% of the businesses are saying that retaining operational people, good qualified leaders, 60% of the businesses are saying that's their number one operational challenge. That if you were to say a magic wand, what's one thing we can fix? How can I keep good people? How can I attract good people to work here? If someone were to exit, how do we fill it back in? And one of the truths of that, the principle, is that people have to be encouraged and want to work there for the long term in a sustainable fashion. So when we look at Ephesians chapter 4, let's unpack why this is important. Ephesians chapter 4, it gives a formula for what leadership is all about, how it works. I like to call it the corporate path to success. So let's take a look at it real quick. One, it's understanding what the ultimate role of a leader is. When you look at that formula, apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers, it's giving kind of a sequence. And ultimately, all of those tiers of leadership is to make sure that the people are ready to perform. The people are ready to do the work, that they're equipped, that they have the resources, the capacity, the authority to do the work. When you look at the roles of leadership or that corporate entity, we like to call that inverting the pyramid. That the people who are the ultimate tiers of leadership are getting another tier ready, and they're getting another tier ready, so that the people that are actually dealing with the customers and the clients feel ready, resourced, equipped to do the work, as opposed to everyone waiting for one person to make all the decisions, have all the answers to do the work. So when you look at that, there's an inspired selection of leaders that has to happen. And then the second is that the leaders have to equip the followers. I'm going to say that again. The leaders, that's you, have to equip the followers. And that word equip, it literally means to give them what they need, whether it's educationally, emotionally, access to organizational authority, so that they feel like they have all the tools necessary to drive the results. When followers, the people that are being influenced by your leadership, know, sense, and feel like they have all the tools to do the work, the organization begins to function better. When they don't feel like it, the organization tends to become toxic. The third is that you want to have those leaders and followers together building up the corporate body. This is what you'll see right in Ephesians chapter 4. When you look at it, and I love to always hone in on leadership definitions. When we talk about a leader, think of a person. When you think of leadership, think of a process. I'm going to give you another one. When you think of a follower, think of a person. When you think of followership, think of a process. For many years, leadership was always discussed. You would hear those maxims, everything rises and falls on leadership. I've read that and heard it, and it sounds right. The problem is it wasn't statistically proven. What's been proven time and time again in business is you need both. You can have toxic leaders and you can have toxic followers. You need good leadership and you need good followership. It's how everyone comes into the room together. I want you to tell that to your team. Say, it's not just me, it's you. It's how you come in here. Because both the leader influences the followers, and what they're seeing right now, don't miss this, is that the followers are influencing the leaders. They can make it more enjoyable or discouraging. They influence the temperament of the leader just by how they are following in that environment. Share that with your team, because together it's that leader and those followers that are going to build up that corporate body, that corporate entity. And what you want to get to that ultimate path of success is that your team, your organization, your department, if it's in a nonprofit, your department or your ministry, whatever it is, it's displaying and exhibiting unity. And that is an episode that we're going to hit on what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like to get to that high level of performance. So you want to kind of keep that goal, you invert that pyramid. How is each of us equipping the second tier? How are we coming into this environment as a leader? How are we coming into this environment as a follower? Are we being built up together? Is all the work being funneled through one person or one group of people? How can we disseminate it so that everyone's going to work together equally and with joy and with the fervor necessary to drive home the results? I want you to go ahead and share this podcast with someone, because I see so many teams. Incidentally, when I do consulting, that's one of the number one things people ask me to help with. Help our team to work together better. Can you come in and do a diagnostic? Can you do an assessment? Can you just say something? Because right now the team is flatlining. So I want you to share this. This is one way you can do it for free. Share it. Tell everybody we got to work on our leadership. We've got to work on our followership. We got to realize each of us can make this environment toxic, but we can pull this thing together if we recognize all of these layers and these tiers of how we will work together effectively. So I want you to share this podcast. You can subscribe to it. Go to faith2lead.com. Let us know what's working on your team so that we can ensure that you're winning. The second is I want to hit you with just a few aspects on how you could encourage a person. I had to learn this. So I wrote down these points. It comes right out of 2 Timothy chapter 2. And check this out. I'll give you a little background on Timothy. Timothy was a great man. He was influential. When you read throughout the New Testament, you'll see him in the book of Acts. He was with the Acts of the Apostles. And Paul was kind of like the general leader. He called himself the master builder. So he would have these lieutenants, use that for lack of a better word, who he would deploy in certain cities and in certain regions. And Timothy was one of them. And Timothy, at one point, he got into the same environment that many of us find ourselves in. He felt overwhelmed. He found himself surrounded with a group of people that didn't want to listen. He found himself questioning whether he was the right one to be in leadership, just like what we've been talking about. Those people that feel that moral decline, just, should I even be here? And so what Paul did is he wrote a letter to this leader. And in that letter, he hits different statements that I wrote down and I researched through. And I said, that is the perfect communication that each leader should share with someone on their team who feels dispirited, who feels that they need to be encouraged. I think there's a formula in there. And I think this will help people, help you in your leadership, and help the people under your leadership to feel encouraged if you follow this same pattern. So here we go. The first is recognize, be aware. You want to let them know that you think about them often and that you observe the efforts that they've done. When you read through that particular passage in the Bible, you'll hear him say, I think about you often, and I am minded of your tears. One of the worst things to do, and now don't forget this, is to see someone on your team who you know is grieving about something and walk right by him. Act completely unaware and say, well, they've got to figure that out. I didn't know how to respond to people before, so I used to just not respond. That's the worst thing to do. Going up to a person and saying, you know what, I can tell something's on your mind. I know that you came into the office with something, and I want you to realize I see it. I understand that you've had a difficult day, what you're going through at home, what you're seeing at your family. You're a real person here. And I want you to know when you're down, we're all down. We see you. We feel you. We are mindful of your tears. It's running through our mind. We're genuinely and authentically concerned. Demonstrate to them that you recognize it and that you're aware of it. Don't just blow past it. The second, I use the word discernment. You want to recognize their giftedness. You want to inspire them of the authentic gifts and skills that's already in them. Sometimes people are dispirited and they're going through the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they have no idea that anyone even values the skills they bring to the team. That's when you have to stop them and say, you know what, I see everything that you're going through. I know you're going through a difficult day. I want to tell you the great things you do. I want to tell you about the great skills you bring to this team that no one else can. I want you to see that they're recognized, that we understand you, that we see you, that even as you're going through this, you're indispensable. You're essential here to this team as a person and also by what you bring to our team. The third is to assure them to be confident, to demonstrate your persuasion that and your utter confidence in their skill. In that particular passage when Paul was talking to Timothy, but he said, I'm reminded of the gift that was in you by the laying on of my hands and through your mother. And it was his way of saying, you're awesome. And so many people on your team, they need to hear that word through you, that what you do and how you do it makes a profound difference here. You have a unique gift. You have a unique contribution here that no one else can do, and we all see it. Stop right there. That's exactly what someone on your team probably needs to hear you say to them right now. So let's back it up. You want to assure them. You want to be aware of them. You want to be able to have discernment of their recognitions of their gifts. Now let's go into the fourth one, and that's you want to inspire them. There was a particular passage that I liked in Paul, and Paul, he actually looked at Timothy and he said, stir up the gift that's inside you. You want to inspire a person to ignite their gift. That you accept their gift and authorize them to use it again and again. Tell them, these are some of the things you're good at on this team. And you did that before. I want you to do it all the time. You might have thought you were hot that day, or did they like it or did they not like it? Was it acceptable? Was it approvable? Inspire them. Encourage them and say, what you bring to this team, we want to see happen over and over and over and over again. Trust me on that. When you do that, then they will feel liberated and free. So many people, they just want to know that my contributions are valued. And to that point, one of the great things you can do for your team when you see a person that's down is remind them of what they have recently done and how what they have done has addressed a corporate mission, corporate vision, or corporate mandate. When you did that on that project, you helped move the needle of this entire organization. And I want to stop you today and tell you, you did an awesome job in doing that. You want to walk through all of these things. Let them see that you see them, that you're aware of it. Let them recognize that you recognize their skills, that you recognize their team. Now you want to inspire them. You want to get their joy back, their heart back, and just let them know at that day that they're important. And finally, you want to liberate them. Speak to their insecurities and their fears, their frustrations, and let them know that they're going to be victorious. That is just telling a person, I know you're going through a tough season in your life, a tough moment, but I have the ultimate confidence you're going to be able to get through this thing. We're all here for you, but this will come to pass. This is going to be something that you work through, that you have all of our resources for, that you have the strength and support of our team. But fundamentally, we believe in you. We believe in your ability to overcome the challenges that you're dealing with because you have a history of doing that. Taking those kind of snapshots and putting them in your work environment to those individuals on your team when they're hitting those moments of being discouraged, it lets people know that you care. Previously we talked about encouraging the heart, and there is an entire dimension of leadership that's called transformational leadership, and they deal with the 4 I's. We'll talk about that later. But one of them is called individual consideration. It's when a person knows, wow, I work here, and with all the great things that are happening, they're actually concerned about me as an individual. They know when I'm going down. They know what I need. They care about my challenges and my problems. And they have an ability, my team leader, to speak to me, and I feel like I'm being considered as an individual and not just considered as part of a larger body of people, one group of people, just another name, just another number. I'm actually having individual consideration for my challenges. That when people are in that environment and they begin to say that about their leader, that begins to take that leader to elevate them to a profile of what's called a transformational leader. We love to use those terms: transformational leader, servant leader, ethical leader, situational leader, trait leaders, all of those. But many of those leadership styles, when you look at the Bible, when you look at the Word of God, you will actually see individuals that exhibited them. And that's what led to their development, their excellence, and their achievements. So you can actually incorporate them in your environment. Let me give you a few action items. I always like to give you something that you can actually do today. And one of them, it actually comes out of a book from Cowles and Posner called The Leadership Challenge. And it's you want to maintain and repeatedly communicate a high expectation of what a person can accomplish. This is what you've done. This is what you can do. We have the full confidence that you can do it. You want to create an environment where they can talk back to you. And that is so important. You want to say, hey, this is how we've done things. How should we do them differently? What's your take on it? How are you dealing with even how you're getting instructions, getting guides? Do we have enough resources? Here's my favorite. If we had to start this all over again, how should we do it? If we had to break everything up, if we had a clear canvas where you can let your imagination go, how would you see it? What do you want it to look like? What do you want this team to look like in 5 years? What do you want this department to look in 5 years? What do you see in yourself? Create that environment where feedback is welcome. Don't wait for them to come to you. You go to them and create the environment. Ask the questions. Prompt them. That way they'll know they're getting that individual consideration. I also love this one. Be creative when it comes to recognition. Sometimes we'll say, well, at the end of every quarter, we have Employee of the Month, or, at the end of every month. At the end of every year, we give out an award to Employee of the Year. Yeah, we give out bonuses. Those are all great. But sometimes break the convention. Be creative with how you say thank you. Be creative how to say you're valued. Do something that no one expected on a time. No one expected it. It could be for any day or week. It's worth the time. I have been a prisoner of this because I keep a detailed schedule. I can tell you every day, what are the 10 tasks? What are the events that I have? And I got to be honest with you, most of the time I get to about half the tasks. And then the last activity I do at the end of every day is usually rescheduling all the tasks that I never got done that day. And I do that to the point where I can drive myself crazy with it. So I know all about tasks. I know all about schedules. I know all about deadlines. If I don't have a deadline, I often give myself a deadline just so that I can be in a certain mode, so that I can drive results, so that I can get things done. I get it. But you know what? One of the things you've got to put in those tasks is when to break those conventions and those moments where you tell people thank you. Where in your day do you focus in on encouraging the heart of the people on your team? Where in your day do you sit down and say, let me strategize 10 new ways to say thank you and to recognize people? Where in your week or in your month or on your schedule are you saying, how do we do demonstrations of appreciation that go above and beyond the norm? They don't even have to be expensive. They just have to be creative and innovative. I'm here to advocate to you today. That is as important as any other task that you have, because the challenge that many team leaders find is that people aren't encouraged anymore. They're losing the spirit of the people on their team. But just those moments, just those touches, just that level of care where you've come beyond the veil and you're no longer just the organizer, just the director, but you're talking to them, giving them the individual consideration that they need, that you're rewarding them, that you're picking them up. That's one of the things that will drive you out of that 60% of businesses that are saying, you know what, I'm having a hard time keeping people, because often it's not the salaries why people are leaving. It's they're looking for an environment where they can grow. They're looking for an environment where they can speak. They're looking for an environment where they can be heard. They're looking for an environment that has a vision. They're looking for an environment that makes a difference. And they're looking for a team where they can be part of it. So if you can start addressing some of those needs, some of those concerns that everyone has, I am confident you can work your way out of that 60%. So I want you to go ahead. I want you to take a look at this podcast. I want you to share it with someone. And don't forget, you can subscribe to it. Throughout my life, I've always felt this tension where some people said, yeah, I'm a man or woman of faith. And then I go to work and I'm a business leader. And those two things are two different worlds. I have my Sunday experience and then I have my leadership experience. I don't believe in that. The older I get, the more experience I've gotten, and the more study that I've done, I'm seeing that those two worlds are more connected than anything else. That many of the things that require an individual or grow a person to being a good leader, it comes from a sense of faith, from soul development, personal development that is then emitted. So right here at Faith to Lead, that's what we talk about. So I want you to subscribe to this podcast. You can hear some of the insight and the principles that we're running into in the Bible and through contemporary scholarship. It's going to move the needle. You're going to be able to win. And don't forget, you can also go to faithtolead.com, drop us a note, tell us how you're responding to everything. So you can share it, you can subscribe, or you can visit us. So this is how you can respond to a discouraged employee. And it's essential that you respond. If you hear nothing else, say, if they're down, I got to do something. Let me close by telling you, I'm going to remind you of those two definitions. Remember, a leader is a person, right? That leader is a person. Leadership is a process. Leader, person, leadership is a process. That's how you are doing your leadership functions. And that's where you as an individual are influencing a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. So what's our goal? Where are we going? Okay, now how you communicate that and how you guide that, that's leadership. Then after that, you have the follower. The follower is a person. It's all the people that are around you. Throughout my life, many people had a negative perception of the word follower because it made them feel like if I'm not the leader, then I don't have a mind. Or, that saying that we all heard from someone in our family, if all your friends walk off a bridge, or you're going to follow them, right? And so followership meant you don't make the right decisions. You don't have a sense of morality on your own, but we want you to be a leader who has ethics and morality to go against the crowd. But that's not the ultimate definition of a follower. A follower can still have ethics, can still say no, can still make the right ethical choices. A follower, it's the process, or followership is where an individual accepts the influence of others to accomplish a common goal. So you have someone who's influencing, that's a leader, then you have someone who's accepting the influence. That's a follower. So we need both to make this team work. So I hope you enjoyed this today. I'll talk to you soon. Let's help your team win right here at Faith to Lead.